My name is Kenneth L. Camp. My rank is Chief Warrant Officer 2. My unit was in Vietnam was Bravo Troop 3rd of the 17th Air Cav. We fly into Tan Son Nhut, and we get off the plane, and the heat and the smell hits you right away. It's unbelievable, the smell. But the heat, it's sticky, you know, and you just feel uncomfortable the first 4 or 5 minutes. I mean, terrible, you know. Oh my God, how am I gonna get through this, you know? So we got there, and they started assigning us to different units. I see some of these guys here, man. They look like they look like some bad dudes, you know. And most of them were scout pilots because some of them had the mustaches, and they just got back from flying, so they're sweating and they're dirty, and we all wore these cav scarves, you know, the red and white and cav hat. Of course, I didn't have any of that then. It was a little scary the first night, and then the next day you start to meet people and everybody, and you start to they assign you a pilot, a senior pilot. And then you go and you fly some of the missions. Well, I think it might have been 3 days into the time when I was going out on sorties and whatnot. When one of our scouts got shot down, so we had to medevacing. So I'm flying right seat and in a Huey. And we're flying over this area, and I see smoke going off, and I see guys are shooting back and forth, you know, our guys. And and I see the aircraft. It was an OH-6, see the aircraft. And we landed as close as we could, because we landed down into this Nippopom. And we're taking the top of the Nippopom with a rotor blade so we could get down low enough. And they bring this pilot in, and I could see the bone sticking out of his arm here, you know, and I don't remember if he was conscious or anything. So anyway, we picked him up and flew him to the medevac hospital, and we just dropped him off, and then I don't remember what happened. Then we went back. Another one got shot down. Another OH-6 got shot down. So we had to go get him, and he was dead. I think he was dead. But so anyway, with this in mind, I'm thinking, you know what? I'm never going back to Elmer again. This is it. I'm going to kill as many as I can before I leave, but you know, I don't think I'm coming back from this. After that, we did more missions like sniffer missions. You know what sniffer missions? Yeah. Sniffer missions is where you fly low level. And they got this piece of equipment that detects human. The body puts off some chemical, and they can tell with a sniffer. So you just fly treetop level and in a mission, and then you throw out, and then you do PSYOPs missions. And a PSYOPs mission is you drop these thousands and thousands of these leaflets here, and what it does, they want them to chuhoy. Chuhoy means give up, and take this paper to the Army, and you know, you'll be good to go. We won't shoot you. So you fly the Hueys, and you can stay with the Hueys. Don't say anything to anybody. That's what you're going to do the rest of the time you're there. But you see these other helicopters doing different things. You're in your unit, and we had Cobras and LOHs, OH-6, LOH, low observation helicopter, which is a scout. So the Cobra, of course, is guns. They carry 52 rockets, 40 Mike minigun. Some of them later would transition to 20 millimeter Gatling guns. And the scout pilot, the scout ship, the pilot shoots a minigun, which is on the left-hand side. Minigun shoots 2,000 rounds. If you pull the trigger back once, pull it all the way back, 4,000 rounds a minute. So when you're shooting it, every fifth round is a tracer, and it's like squirting a hose. The OH-6 helicopter has a sight on it. I don't know why they put them in there because nobody ever used them. But your sight was, you take a grease pencil and you mark on your bubble, and you go out there and you shoot. And if your tracers are on that mark that you made, that X, that's your sight. Because you don't have time to be messing with a sight. You're only a few feet away from the people on the ground. And so you got to be quick, and you got your trigger, you got your finger on the trigger the whole time you're flying. When you're low level, when you're doing your mission and you're actively looking, you know, not when you're just flying around. They said, "Hey, want to try a Cobra?" You know, yeah, I'll try it. So I get in the front seat, and oh God, it was so boring because you fly circles around the scout pilot. That's your job, and it's fun when you're shooting the rockets. You know, when you're shooting a minigun or whatever, you know, that's kind of neat, you know. But you don't get to do that too often, you know. So it's hours and hours and hours. The aircraft holds about 2 hours of fuel. The scout pilots of the OH-6 held a little bit more fuel than the Cobras did. And so with that in mind, I said, no. It's fun to fly a gunship, you know, but that's not what I want to do. So Scout, they called him the hunter-killer team. I said, well, I'm a hunter, so I'm going to try this out, you know. So get in the aircraft that day with a experienced pilot, and we're doing the scout mission, low level, right? And you're looking for bunkers. You learn how to track. I already, from hunting with my dad, I kind of had to, learn how to track for deer and blood trails, and when you shoot a deer. We could tell the age of the track, how long it was before when the track was made. Now, you got to know the weather, all right? So, and the way you could do this, and was you're flying over, and if you see a muddy footprint in the mud, and it's cloudy, the water is cloudy, it was just made. So it's probably within an hour. So that guy's up there pretty close, so you got to be careful, all right? If you observe the track and the water is clear, then it's an older track. It's even older when it starts to degrade. It's not a sharp track, but it's mostly in the Delta and the Cambodia area. The grass is going to eventually come back up. So if the grass is flat, it's fresh track. It's a fresh trail. As it comes up, it gets older and older, of course, you know.
And you'd be able to see that from a chopper?
Well, you only
the
skids are here. There's it is right there.
So you'd come down. You were right there.
Oh yeah.
So you're like 10 feet off the ground.
12 feet, maybe a little higher, depending on what the vegetation is. You know, if there's taller trees, you got to be careful, of course, you know. When you go into an area tactically, you're going very fast. Okay, this is my area that I want to check. So I'm coming in here like a bat out of hell, and I'm making circles like this. And as I start that, the more I see down here, if it doesn't look too bad, I start slowing up. And now the pilot has a minigun, so if he sees anything, he can shoot the minigun right away. Of course, it's only forward, you know, so you got to do a pedal turn to shoot it if you have to. Now, the observer that's with you is generally usually a corporal, E6, E7 sometimes you get, you know. The observer is a trained observer. He knows how to track. He knows what the pilot knows, you know. He may even know more. He has a Car 15. It's an M16 with a shorter barrel. A Car 15 was. And he has hand grenades. We have a whole bunch of hand grenades between him and I. Frag grenades. You don't use the old-fashioned hand grenades like the infantry use. You use the frag grenades because you're in they're for aircraft. Because if you throw them out, you know, they go into millions of pieces. Whereas the old-fashioned one might go 50, 60 yards, so they're going to hit you. If you see a bunker, right, and all bunkers have holes in them, so they can get in and out, you throw that grenade inside that hole, and that's how you get them.
So when your bird goes down and you're hovering and you're checking out trails, do you have another bird that's got your back?
Yeah, the Cobra. He's at 1,000 feet.
So
he's between 800 and 1,000.
So he's up there.
Yeah, he's watching every move you make. That front seat pilot should never take his eye off of that scout pilot. Never, because if you do for 10 seconds, he could be in the jungle. You're never going to see that helicopter again.
Gotcha.
That's why he, you know. So if they lose you, sometimes they'll lose you accidentally, and they're going to be on the radio. I lost you, where you at? You know. So you usually have to come up, you know, because you're blended in with the vegetation down there, and the helicopter's OD, you know, it's all the same colors. What I would do when I first got there, I would take pictures of different things to send back home, of the bunkers and whatnot. Well, I take this picture with the Instamatic, which is not a very good camera, but that was easy to use back then. And I got a picture of a bunker with a guy looking at me.
Oh, no kidding.
Yeah. Didn't know he was there until I got the picture developed. But you're flying and you're going like this, you know. You're looking for enemy or any equipment, you know, mortars, vehicles. Well, vehicles, they can't hide those in the Delta. They could hide them a little bit pretty much in the jungle, like up when you got north of Saigon, you get into the jungle and the mountainous areas, because we flew there too. They can build right into a stream bank. Okay, in Cambodia they did that a lot. There would be, we called a stream, we called a blue. You know, whatever, they have different. I got two guys in the blue or whatever, you know, and that meant a stream. And when I would say that, if, the Cobra's going to look at me right away. He's going to really pay attention to me because he don't know whether they got guns or not. In Cambodia, the first two guys I shot, we were doing an area in Cambodia, and our we called him Doc. He got shot through here and out here, and he was still walking around, you know. But anyway, what had happened, apparently the guys that shot him were just in front of him, and I come around to the stream, and I see these two guys in white T-shirts, and I'm thinking, boy, what a stupid thing that is, you know, and they come there in the two white suits. So my door gunner was not very experienced. I said, shoot them guys, you know. And I don't know what he was doing. Maybe he froze. So I shot him with a minigun. Our hooch maids told us we were going to Cambodia before the Army told us. So there you go. In Cambodia, especially in Cambodia, and a lot of the missions we had FACs. We had fixed wing, Air Force,
right?
OV-1s, push-pull. And that guy there, he is taking all the coordinates, and he's hearing what I'm telling the Cobra, because I'm giving all the information of what's on the ground. The scout pilot flies so low and so fast, you don't have time to get your gun up, especially in the jungle. We were on this mission to try to find this hospital, and on the mechanical ambushes, they would find dead nurses and dead doctors on the mechanical ambush. Mechanically, it's an ambush setup, nobody has to be there. They trip a wire or they do something and stuff goes off, you know. We were working this area, and I said, you know, well, hospital, I'm going to find this hospital, you know. And so I was flying the area where the mechanical ambushes was. I couldn't see anything at all. Of course, it's a jungle, you know, it's tough to see down there. But I could smell something. And I kept smelling this, and I kept saying, it smells like Old English. And I'm giving this to whoever is taking the information. And I was at the officers club that night, and I said, could you smell anything? You know, yeah, we smell something. I said, well, that smells like Old English. So I told somebody, apparently what they had done, they sent back to the States to the Old English factory and asked them what the chemicals were. Well, it turns out whatever the chemical was, I don't know what it was, but it was used for accelerating the decomposition of bodies, because they were running out of places to bury them.
How many people were actually in your chopper?
Just me and the observer. Just two people.
2 people. So the observer has no pilot training at all? If you get hit?
No, we would try to train them or try to get them to learn. There was a guy who was I might have been my first mission as aircraft commander, as pilot. And they put you with an experienced observer. The guy was from North Jersey, and he was an E6, I think he was, and he was good. He could fly the aircraft, wow. And which is probably why they put him, you know, with the new pilots. So anyway, it was my first mission, and it was a rice paddy area, whatever. Our infantry was on the ground. They were taking fire from the VC, and they were popping smokes, so that I would know where they were, right? But after the smoke went out, I didn't have enough experience to remember where they were. So I was afraid to shoot the minigun. I went shoot my own guys. Now they're taking fire big time. To make a long story short, that sergeant flew the aircraft, shot the minigun, and I was the passenger.
How about that?
That was my first by myself, he did he did a great job. And like I say, you're on a treetop level, and you're going not very fast. The fastest you would go maybe would be 40, 50 knots, so you're not going very fast. So they can get you pretty quick. What they did was they put hand grenades in the top of the trees of the top of the nipah palm. And the reason they did that is because if it was a very thick area, and we did this a lot around the Tain Inn area where there was a lot of jungle kind of area, and what you would do is you would fly and then flare, and the rotor wash would open up for a few seconds so you could see. Well, anyway, make a long story short, I was flying over this one area, and one of their grenades went off, or whatever it was. And it hit me in the leg here in the seam of my pants, right? And a piece of shrapnel like that. Oh boy, I did that smart, but it went away real quick, So when I got back, the shrapnel was just under my skin like this. I just picked it out, Band-Aid on it.
That's a Purple Heart.
Well, I didn't. I wasn't going to report that. They're called observers. They're not. Well, it's not like a door gunner on a Huey. They're just door gunners. All they do is shoot the M60s, But our guys are shooting Car 15s, M16s, Car 15s, and they're also observing. They're also looking for bad guys, and so they have a pretty good idea, what they're doing. And the pilots usually, we all trained our own observers. Some guys didn't like their pilots. I had no problem. Everybody wanted to fly with me. You didn't really pick. They did that.
They did.
They kind of did. They picked the pilots, and because I called what they call, I hung my ass out a lot, I took chances that other guys wouldn't take, and I wasn't afraid of anything. I had made up my mind I wasn't coming home anyways, pretty much,
Did you have a nickname?
Intrepid 15, because I didn't care. I just go, without fear. That's what they call me, Intrepid 15. But then you change that a little bit. The more experience you get, I was very, very good with that helicopter. And what I used to do, and I would tell one of my observers, I could fly up to a tree, and I said, you pick a leaf out, and I could take that one leaf off with that rotor blade. And I told this guy, I said, I'll tell you what, why don't you get up on that step ladder, you put a cigarette in your mouth, and I'll take it out, okay, with the helicopter. That's how good I was. But I had 999 hours of helicopter time. I could do anything with that thing. I knew exactly how far back that tail was. I knew it was like part of your body, But the OH-58, the Jet Ranger, was not like that. That was tough because it was sloppy. The OH-6 is like a sports car, as far as helicopters are concerned. The OH-58 was the bell. It's a nice, I flew those civilian. I flew helicopters after I got back as a civilian pilot. You had to watch it in Vietnam. Wherever you went, you had to call Artie. So if you're going from point A to point B, you had to call Artie so you wouldn't run into artillery. Because there's artillery going on all the time. No matter where you went, you called Artie. My call sign was Stogie 15. Sometimes they changed the call sign, but our call sign was Stogie 15. The commander that I had in Vietnam was Joe Frazier's cousin. And it was kind of neat. He was very good playing tennis, table tennis.
Philly?
No, he was from South Carolina. He was a good commander. I liked him. He was a good guy. He really embarrassed me because after I got shot down and I was in the hospital and I was ready to go flying again, he gave me a little check ride and whatnot. And they had an officers meeting that night about over-torquing aircraft. And he says, half you guys was as good as this guy here just got out of the hospital. So I had to take the ribbon for that. Oh, man, you're the best pilot we got, right? In Vietnam, I have 999 combat hours. That's way. Most people that left Vietnam as pilots, maybe 150.
Wow.
So we flew every day. We barely ever got, scout pilots, we barely ever got a day off. Each mission was 2 hours long, and sometimes you'd have 2 missions, sometimes you had 5. or 4 or 5, and then sometimes you didn't have any. You just flew to the area and waited, which was rare. Really, at one point, when we got called, was somebody was in a contact, somebody was getting shot at. So then they would call the hunter-killer teams in. The only time you get scared is when you get up in the morning and you say, is this going to be the day? See, we was in the cab, so we moved a lot. In the cab, you moved around. That's why you're in the cab. You go wherever the action is. We were at mainly around Saigon and west of Saigon all the way up to Cambodia. Nui Ba Din, the Sisters Mountains, all these different places where a lot of stuff happened, I got shot down. I was training a new pilot. He was supposed to fly. Well, we got news that there was contact, there was shooting going on. So I says, you're not flying. I'm flying because we're going into a hot area. I don't know what this guy's going to be like. We called in artillery. We broke for fuel, called in artillery, So now we broke for fuel, we're coming back to the same area again. So he says, well, I got to fly now. I says, okay, well, I didn't really want him to. I said, listen, we're going to go back to this area. Just because we pulled all this artillery in here and those jets dropped their bombs, right, doesn't mean that those guys aren't there and they're all dead. Guarantee you, they're not going to be. So anyway, I let him fly, and we're flying over this area, and I'm saying, you're flying in the same area, when I'm cussing him, hitting him with smoke grenades and stuff. Come on, And, you're going to get us killed. I don't know what I said and all that stuff. Well, sure enough, tail boom goes. We think it was an RPG. We went down in the jungle there, and the aircraft landed on my side. And I thought, I didn't see any color. I seen only black and white. And I thought I was in a car wreck in Elmer. That's what I thought. So we got out of the aircraft, and the lazy bugger didn't want to carry his .38 because it's uncomfortable to carry a gun when you're flying. He's a lieutenant. He knows everything. He knows it all. But anyway, so he didn't have, and so I had my gun on me. Now, I don't know what's going on. I can't even see because the blood's going down in my eyes. My eyes was cut here. My nose was an open fracture here. I could stick my finger up in there. My wrist was broke, was like back here. And besides, I'm like in shock. So like I say, I don't know. The only thing I remember we got out of the helicopter was the bad guys were around us. And the guy in my Cobra is hovering and shooting his minigun, and to keep the guys off of us. And he's shooting a minigun, and the brass is hitting me on the head, and it was hot, and it was hitting me on the head because it's falling 150 feet, So that kind of hurt. And I was, oh my God, and I could hear this noise, So we were walking through the jungle, and he's got a grenade in his hand with a pin pulled that you can't throw from here to that door. The Cobra, he can't do anything other than protect us. Called, I think it was company commander, and he was flying slicks that day. And they came in from one area, and we were on the border. This is right on the border of Cambodia. And this is all jungle. Cambodia is over here, and these are all rice paddies. The slick has a rope. Now the rope's not long enough. So they dropped the rope down, and they can't, and the guy that was with me, he was pretty good shape, the lieutenant. He says, he says, I'm going to tie this rope around you, all right? Well, there wasn't enough rope to tie around me because they can't get any lower. So he says, can you hold on to the rope? So they tied a knot in the end of the rope. And I looked at my hand and said, that ain't right. I'll put my hand back here like that. And I grab onto this rope. And they picked me up and apparently put me down on the Cambodian side, which I found out later they had to get permission to do this through Washington, the whole thing to drop me on the Cambodia side. I was only there for a few minutes. And as soon as they dropped me, it was water up to my knees. All my legs were all cut up. So I had no pain whatsoever except for that. That really hurt. They finally fly me to the closest field evac hospital, and they stitched me up. And this is what the doctor wrote, and it's still got blood on it.
Wow, that's awesome.
Now this is coming in very handy, this piece of paper here. I'm going to tell you why. Being reevaluated by the VA.
The VA, yeah.
Right? The nose here is most of my problems, is the sinuses. I've had 5 major operations on it because of this. Well, the reevaluation came back and says that the sinus injury is not service-connected. Well, that's service-connected. It's still got the blood on it. So I sent that to, I hired an attorney from Cherry Hill.
Wow, good for you.
Called me, it says, made me mad. All I remember is being on a stainless steel table, and it was cold, and everything hurt. My finger, this finger hurt all the time. And so the next thing I remember was they had my face wrapped up in gauze, like a mummy. The only thing I could open was right here. The next thing I remember was my whole face hurt because of the bandages. So this finger here had no fingernail. It was gone, and that hurt more than anything. So with this finger here, I worked my way up, got through my mouth. I was trying to get to see anything out. I couldn't see anything. Too many bandages. And a nurse came up and touched me, and she started talking to me. From her, that made everything fine. That was kind of neat. Because just the touch of another human being and talking to you. They finally took the bandages off, and the guys the other pilots that I was with, they decided to pay me a little visit. So I'd see them coming through the door. I said, oh, wait. They walked right by me. They didn't recognize me because my face was all swollen up. It felt like spiders here because both of the eyebrows were stitched. All here was all stitched. This is what the Army would do. If you got shot down or if you got wounded, you got one free call home. And they, this is a line. This wasn't Mars. You know what Mars is, where there was a radio, shortwave kind of thing. Oh, this was a real phone call. So you got to call your parents. Well, they were all in bed, so they get up. And I was talking to them, and that was kind of cool. So after that, I really didn't write because my hand wasn't very good shape. So we mainly did cassette tapes records. I didn't do a whole lot of writing. At one point, they says, "Okay, got to get up, got to get out of bed." Yeah, well, you got to make your own bed. Now they didn't know that this was broke.
In the hospital?
No, it was broke the navicular.
No, I'm saying they make you make your own bed.
Oh yeah, I had stuff, yeah. And those big heavy things, So anyway, I'm trying to do everything with my left hand, but the main reason I wanted to get up was I wanted to see what I looked like, because all I could feel was all these stitches all over my face. So I made my way into the bathroom, and I walked little steps like this. It took me forever to get there because everything hurt, I was afraid I was going to fall. So I got in there and looked. I said, oh, my God. My face is just full. It was swollen up, And that's why the guys didn't recognize me, because I wanted to go outside. I was hungry. I wanted to eat something. We called them roach coaches. I knew there was one out there because I could hear guys. They were bringing in stuff. And I said, I'd love to have a hamburger, something like that. So I go out there, and I walk out there. And I see the roach coach, and I go over there and I get a hamburger. I can't taste it, nothing. I can't taste nothing. I have no taste or smell now at all. I can't even smell propane.
After the crash, Ken didn't fly for a month. He spent 2 weeks in the hospital and another 2 weeks recovering on the base before returning to flying. The Army was unaware of his wrist fracture. He did not receive treatment for his navicular bone fracture until he returned to the U.S.
All the scars and everything. So I went to Walsall Army Hospital when I got back, and I had 2 surgeries there. I had 2 on my wrist and 2 on my sinuses, and with the ENT doctor. And that's back then. Doctors were amazed when I tell them this now. That's back then when they didn't put you under. they did the operation on your sinuses. And you had to tell them when you could breathe, when you couldn't. And the blood would just pour down your throat, the back of your throat. So they weren't fun. And the doctor, Dr. Haymaker, I'll never forget his name. He says you can do this. We can do this operation Walter Reed because you need Walter Reed doctors. And I said no, you do it. So he did. He did the operation. That was Walton Army Hospital. It's going now. They tore it down.
Where is that?
Oh, Fort Dix.
At Fort Dix.
Yeah. So he did the surgery, and then I had a cast on my arm for 13 months. Then when the temporary duty stuff became permanent, now all I have to do was go to the FAA and say, listen, I'll take a check ride. I can demonstrate that I can fly this helicopter with the hydraulics off, right? And turn the hydraulics off, and I could still fly it. I was in the hospital at Walton Army Hospital for 13 months.
13 months.
Yeah, I wasn't in that. I was there for operations, so I wasn't always in the bed, And while I was there, in the Army, you have to have a job. So they made me liaison officer for the hospital. And as a liaison officer, everybody that was in the hospital that wanted to go on leave had to come through me.
Did you experience any negativity from people? You always hear about
all the time.
Yeah.
Oh, what
who did you hear it from, though?
What really made me mad was I got negative feedback from a couple of the guys from the VFW that were World War II guys. Yeah, well, you should have been there. So that really upset me. I didn't like that at all. I went to Hong Kong and I went to Taiwan. I liked Taipei a lot. I didn't go to Australia. Well, the reason I picked those places because it didn't take long to get there. Australia, you had to spend too much time messing around with stuff. So I went to Hong Kong. You know the reason I went to Hong Kong? Because I bought a flash and the flash didn't work on my camera, so I went there to get the warranty. That's why I went to Hong Kong.
You went there for the warranty?
Yeah.
Did you suffer any PTSD?
You don't think you do, but you did. I didn't think I had any problem. As a matter of fact, when I came back, I had a short fuse like that. And if anybody had done anything to my family, I'd have killed them. I had a gun, carried a gun all the time, or if I didn't have it on me, I had it with me somewhere in the car or something like that. And I didn't take no stuff off of anybody. When these people come back from combat, I'm not just talking about, being in the service and being there. But when people are shooting at you all the time, you got a different way of looking at things. They kept score as a unit. We had a great big calendar, and every day somebody got kills, they'd mark it on the calendar. So our kill was in the hundreds.
Did you paint anything on your helicopter like they did in World War II?
No, because you use different helicopters all the time. Yeah, you use different ones. When we went to Cambodia, we staged out of Tay Ninh, and we were there for quite some time before, near the end of my tour, and that was a little bit easier there. We didn't get a whole lot of contact back then because the Army was winding down. Being an infantry trained as an infantryman, I knew what the infantry could do and what they couldn't do. The other pilots didn't have a clue. See, they were just pilots. They didn't have that background that I had with the training that the Army was giving us. Some of the pilots that were scout pilots became scout pilots, or wanted to be scout pilots. The guys from the cities that were not country guys, they weren't very good, and they ended up either getting themselves killed because they just didn't. It wasn't going to work. I had this thing. It was like Twilight Zone when I was in Vietnam, and the new guys would come in, and they wanted to be scout pilots. Not the Huey pilots, not the slick pilots, but the scout pilots. And I could look at this guy and talk to him in 30 seconds, and I knew if he was going to make it or not. And 9 times out of 10, I was right. I didn't feel good with them. I didn't think they didn't. I don't know what it was. It was just a thing, especially when I first got back and I'm meeting people and I know people that I haven't seen for a while. I could tell how well they would react in combat just by talking to them, their attitudes and everything. And not that it made any difference, and I wouldn't tell anybody. I've told a couple of my friends. I said, you know what? I had a good friend, Jimmy Petrongolo. He was a farmer. He would have been the perfect guy to be in the left seat with as a door gunner. I used to do that a lot, try to figure it out. But it was probably because I was so right in Vietnam. When I came back, I opened up a sporting goods store, sold guns and ammo and so on and so forth. After a few jobs, I did that. Did that for 15 years. But I wrote a little store, newsletter. And I started putting some little funny stuff in there, and everybody liked this. They would come in. I would run off 100 on my copy machine, which cost me a fortune, and I would run off 50, and then more people go, I want a copy of that, so I'd run off another 25. I finished up the store in December and January. Started writing the paper, and by March was my February was my first issue, and I had a friend, Jim Kincaid, from the Cumberland Salem Guide, and he showed me how to organize and get it ready for print on the computer, So without him, I probably would have been able to do it because I needed somebody to help me. So yeah, no problem. We're good friends. Up until COVID, I was doing 20,000 copies, and they go all over the country. Had every state. I think we might have missed one or two. I don't think we have Alaska anymore. But we had two guys that lived on the northernmost research station in Alaska, because it was neat to get everybody, all states, and Puerto Rico too. We had Puerto Rico. We cut it back since COVID because I don't do the shore area anymore. I don't have a salesman down there now. I gave my first hat to the Army Vietnam Museum in Cape May. They have my dress blues there. And here they have the greens. And this is the updated uniform. I like this one the best.
Do you want to say anything in conclusion about your service in Vietnam? Would you trade it? Would you rather have not have gone?
No, I'd do everything again, just the way it is. Maybe the next time, if I ever had the opportunity to do it again, if I was younger, I would change a few things, but not much.
All right, thanks a lot, Ken, for coming out today. We really appreciate it. I learned a lot about you. I know now not to mess with you, too.
Well, getting older now. So.